guess one comment I might make is make sure you know what's in the vitamin.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is it's possible if it's keeping you from sleeping as well, maybe there's some type of a stimulant that's in there, like ephedrine or I know ephedrine now is controlled. You know, it's not easy to get, and probably a lot of these things don't have it. But pseudoephedrine, other things that can be kind of stimulating, that then might give you more energy during the day, but then interfere a little bit with sleep.
Exactly, and a lot of the over-the-counter products that are sold do have various forms of stimulants in them, whether it's caffeine, ephedrine, pseudoephedrine, a Chinese herb called ma wang that is essentially ephedrine. So there are a variety of stimulating kind of substances, and they will make people feel better because it gives you a boost of energy, and so they like to put these things in there. These things are also sometimes included in some over-the-counter weight loss medicines like Metabolife. I always used to think that we should send those folks fruit baskets at the holidays because they sent us so much business because people would take them and then develop anxiety disorders or something. Or drive people into sleep labs and so forth. And people just sort of lose track of the fact that caffeine can really have an effect. I mean, you see some of these kids coming in and their parents saying, I don't know why, little Johnny's just not sleeping. And little Johnny's drinking, 2 or 3 2-liter bottles of Mountain Dew each day. Maybe that's why little Johnny's not sleeping. Although it's interesting, a word about sort of the differences across the age range in terms of sleep. There really is a difference. If you look at how adolescents sleep, how young adults sleep, and how old adults sleep. Young adults tend to really have a circadian rhythm that's a little bit different. So our adolescents are teenagers that you can't get them out of bed in the morning and they want to stay up at night and sleep in later. That's actually probably dictated by biology. That's actually dictated partially by circadian rhythms. If you look at the natural circadian rhythms of adolescents, they tend to have a different sleep-wake cycle than adults do. And similarly, if you look at our older adult patients, they tend to have just the opposite kind of problem. And so why is it that you see these restaurants catering to our senior adults and serving half-price early bird dinner specials at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m.? It's because the natural circadian rhythms for older adults is that they do tend to go to sleep earlier and wake up earlier. It's sort of a myth that older people need less sleep. What happens is older people tend to not consolidate their sleep as well, so they're more likely to nap during the day and then sleep a little bit less at night. Plus, they're more vulnerable to having medical conditions, taking medicines, or having other kind of environmental stressors that may prevent them from sleeping as much at night. But we certainly wouldn't recommend to somebody, you're 75 years old, so you only need to sleep 4 hours a night. No, you're probably still better off sleeping 6, 7, 8 hours a night.
When you were speaking of the teenager and there's a sleep cycle, my son, even as a little one in school, he would be very, very sleepy. And he's an excellent student, so that wasn't the problem. Got excellent grades. He really had trouble. I started paying more attention, and he really couldn't sleep at night. He would go, once he goes to sleep, he's okay, but he would just take hours for him to go to sleep. But I never really realized it because he wasn't a complainer. He would just go to bed. And he didn't slate there when he went to sleep. He still does that.
I'm a big believer. The comment again was having a child who sort of has never been a great sleeper, and academically doing well in school, enjoys school, but struggling because they're tired, and this has sort of been a chronic pattern, and paying attention to this. But it doesn't bother him, but it's the teacher where he's looking so sleepy. I'm a big believer in focus on function. So if somebody has a little bit of tiredness but otherwise they're functioning well academically, occupationally, socially, I'm a little bit less concerned about that than I am if I start hearing about people who are not only tired, but it's impacting their grades, or they're getting in trouble because they're falling asleep in class. If it's something like that, I think that warrants a little bit more attention.
Well, as he got older, he was tending more to, I wouldn't say sleep in class, but always I started noticing that the teachers every year would mention that. It's like, bed at night and all that. So I figured out, and now that he's in high school, with his and his fanatics with his sports and things, and so I don't think he does as well. He needs that sleep, but I don't see a change in wearing him out enough to put him to sleep. I really do think it probably does take a little toll on him.
Yeah, and if that's the case, I mean, that certainly would be a reasonable thing to get in and talk with a physician about, I think, because again, the first and foremost, paying attention to sleep hygiene. You know, how much caffeine is he using during the day? Is his sleep environment? Because if it's like my kids are, it's like they're certainly not following good sleep hygiene when it comes to their rooms and what they do in there and having TVs and stuff. So being a bad parent there. But if so paying attention to the sleep hygiene, I think, first, and then trying to get an idea from them, have them do a sleep log, or you can do a sleep log for them and see what time are they going to bed, how long do you think it's taking them to fall asleep, asking them, hey, do you get up in the middle of the night? If you get up, how many times are you up? Why are you waking up? And how easy is it for you to fall back asleep? And then what time they wake up during the day and how they feel when they wake up. Kids can have sleep disorders. Kids can have insomnia. Kids can have sleep apnea. Even little skinny kids can have sleep apnea. Frequently because of enlarged adenoids or tonsils. Frequently because of allergies that can obstruct their airways. So it's certainly not impossible even for skinny little kids to have problems with sleep apnea. It's not terribly common, but it's not that uncommon.
He's 17 years old.
Yeah.
He wouldn't want me to say this, but he's the thin. I mean, he's muscular.
Yeah.
But he's not has any extra weight. He's trying to gain weight right now, but it really started to bother me. I think it's a problem, and if you talk to the physician that I've talked to, which I dearly love, in this case, they ask, well, do you get in trouble at school? No. Do you get good grades? Well, no. Yes. He makes straight A's. All those questions, they said, well, then don't worry about it. And I think it is something.
Yeah, and again, it's at least.
I'd say he takes 2 or 3 hours to go to sleep.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
He really can't go to sleep, and he's not watching TV or anything. And I've told him to pick up a book and read, and I really see him trying to do different things.
Doing the right things. And again, it wouldn't be inappropriate, I don't think, to maybe think about seeing a sleep specialist about that. You can take heart in the fact that, again, it looks like it's not impairing his level of function to the point where he's not doing well in school or not succeeding athletically or doing those kind of things. So that's reassuring to us. But I can understand that concern, and I would be concerned too if my kid was struggling 2 or 3 hours a night to fall asleep, even if they were functioning. Because again, right now, when they're young and otherwise healthy and have great energy, maybe they can compensate and maybe they can get by. But what happens if this isn't addressed and if this continues when he's in his mid-20s or mid-30s or mid-40s, when he doesn't have that reservoir of adolescent energy to help carry him through? And is that going to, if he was having that kind of sleep disruption at our age, that would probably take much more of a functional toll on him. So I don't think it's anything to be overly concerned about, but I think it's not an inappropriate thing to maybe talk to a sleep specialist about and say, hey, would it be worth thinking about doing a sleep study and seeing what's going on here? It depends. We're a little reluctant typically to use prescription sleep medicines in younger people. There's no prescription sleep medicine that's approved for people under the age of 18. Now, obviously, he's sort of cusping on that age, so by the time he would get in and get evaluated, he might be 18. So some people might think that he might be a candidate for a medicine at that point. But sometimes it can be, again, just taking a more careful sleep history and finding out, well, he's doing this or that. There's also one thing I failed to mention is the impact of cognitive behavioral therapy on sleep. There are specific forms of therapy, of what we call cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a really great, very practical, pragmatic, nuts and bolts type of form of therapy to help people with sleep, because we get twisted when we can't sleep. We get just twisted up with anxiety and concern. Oh my gosh, I can't fall asleep. I'm going to be a wreck tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to perform. I've got this interview tomorrow. I'm not going to be on my game. And to be honest with you, one bad night's sleep, almost anybody can sustain. Even not sleeping at all, most people get through the next day okay. What is a bigger impairment to them probably is the anxiety about not having slept and the worry, rather than the actual impact of one bad night's sleep.